My son-in-law's hands started shaking when the police arrived. The landlord of the rental house my son lived in had called me 3 days after the funeral. "I found something," he said. "Come alone, and don't tell your daughter-in-law." When I got there, he showed me $180,000 in cash hidden inside the walls. There were also documents proving my son-in-law had been stealing from my son for years. I didn't cry. I smiled and said, "Now I know why he told me to check the property one last time." Let me tell you how we got here. The funeral had been on a Thursday. Gray sky, 47 people in attendance, the kind of November cold that gets into your bones and stays there. I stood in the front row at Riverside Memorial Chapel, my daughter-in-law Sarah beside me in a black dress from Nordstrom that still had the tags tucked inside the sleeve. I'd seen them when she hugged me. $340. My son had been dead for 6 days. The service lasted 38 minutes. Sarah cried at appropriate moments. Her hand found mine twice. The second time I noticed her nails, freshly done, gel manicure, probably $65 at that place on Morrison Street she liked. I remembered because my son had complained about the expense 2 months earlier. "She spends more on her nails in a year than I spend on car insurance," he'd said. I didn't think much of it then. My son, Marcus, had always been the careful one, the planner. He'd started his first savings account at 14, kept spreadsheets of his expenses, bought his first rental property at 26. When he married Sarah 5 years ago, I'd watched him set up their accounts, his, hers, joint. "Trust, but verify," he'd told me over coffee at the kitchen table in his house on Belmont Avenue. That's what Dad always said. My husband had died when Marcus was 19. Heart attack at 51, no warning, just gone. Marcus had taken it hard, channeled everything into building security, financial security, the kind you could measure and track and control. By 32, he owned 3 rental properties valued at $890,000 total. He worked as a senior project manager at Davidson Construction, salary $87,000 annually. He had $43,000 in his 401k, $28,000 in savings, and a whole life insurance policy worth $250,000 with me as the beneficiary. Sarah worked part-time at a boutique, maybe $24,000 a year. She talked about going back to school, becoming a real estate agent, starting a photography business. Marcus had supported all of it, set aside money for her courses. I'd seen the Ally Bank account statement on his desk once, $12,000 earmarked, Sarah's future business. That was 7 months before he died. The landlord, Tom Brennan, called me on Sunday evening. 6:47 p.m. I was sitting in my living room in the house I'd lived in for 33 years, looking at photos of Marcus as a kid. The phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Mrs. Chen, this is Tom Brennan. I'm the landlord for the property your son rented out on Oak Street." The 3-bedroom, Marcus's first rental property, bought in 2019 for $185,000. He'd renovated it himself, put in $31,000 worth of improvements. Hardwood floors, new kitchen, updated bathroom. Rented it for $1,850 a month to a young couple with good credit. "The tenants moved out last week," Tom said. "They'd been there 4 years, lease was up, decided to buy their own place. I was doing the final walkthrough today, checking for damages, and I found something." He paused. I heard traffic in the background, like he was calling from his car. "I found something in the walls." "What do you mean in the walls?" "There's a false panel in the master bedroom closet, behind the built-in shelving. I only found it because one of the shelves came loose when I was checking the brackets. Mrs. Chen, there's cash, a lot of cash, and documents. I think you need to see this before anyone else does." "Sarah knows about the properties," I said. "She's handling Marcus's estate." "I know, that's why I'm calling you. Don't tell her. Not yet, just come look. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., come alone." He hung up. I sat there for 4 minutes, phone still in my hand. The house was quiet. I'd lived alone for 13 years since my husband died. You get used to quiet. You get used to making decisions by yourself. You get good at knowing when something isn't right. I didn't sleep that night. The Oak Street property was a 15-minute drive from my house. I got there at 8:52 a.m. Tom's truck was already in the driveway, a white Ford F-150, 2018 model, company logo on the side. Brennan Property Management. He'd managed all 3 of Marcus's rentals for the past 4 years. Good guy, reliable, Marcus had trusted him. He met me at the door. Late 50s, gray hair, work boots covered in dust. "Thanks for coming," he said. "I've been thinking about this all night. Didn't know if I should call the police or what." "Show me." We went upstairs. The house smelled like fresh paint. Tom had told me he was planning to repaint before the next tenants moved in. The master bedroom was at the end of the hall, windows facing the backyard, morning light coming through. The closet was a walk-in, maybe 6 by 8 feet, built-in shelving along the left wall. Tom went to the third shelf from the bottom, pressed on the right side. The whole section swung out like a door. Behind it was a space about 2 feet wide, 3 feet tall, cut into the wall between the studs. Inside were 3 things: a lockbox, a manila envelope, and stacks of cash in rubber bands. "I haven't touched any of it," Tom said, "except to open the envelope. I needed to see what this was." I pulled out the lockbox first. Black metal about the size of a shoebox with a combination lock. I tried Marcus's birthday. It opened. Inside were more documents. Bank statements, account records, emails printed out. All in Sarah's name. I picked up the first bank statement. Chase Bank, account ending in 4738 in Sarah Chen's name. Statement date, September 2024. Balance, $67,340. I'd never seen this account before. I picked up another. Wells Fargo, account ending in 8821. Balance, $23,180. Another. Bank of America. $41,920. The manila envelope had a note on top in Marcus's handwriting. Just 2 words, "For Mom." Inside were more documents. A ledger handwritten dating back 3 years, columns of numbers, dates, amounts, money moving from Marcus's accounts into Sarah's. Small amounts at first, $500 here, $800 there. Then bigger, $2,000, $5,000, $12,000, but there were other entries too, money going out from joint accounts. Money that should have gone to contractors, to property management, to savings, all redirected. All ending up in accounts Marcus didn't know about. At the bottom of the envelope was a letter, dated 2 weeks before Marcus died. "Mom, if you're reading this, something happened to me. I've been tracking Sarah's spending for 18 months. She's been stealing from our accounts. Started small, got bigger. Total so far, $183,400. I have proof. I was going to file for divorce next month, but I wanted everything documented first. The cash in here is what I managed to save before she could get to it. It's yours. The documents prove what she did. I need you to make sure she doesn't get the life insurance or the properties. I've updated my will but didn't tell her. My lawyer David Reese at Reese & Martinez has the original. Call him, trust him. Don't trust Sarah. I'm sorry I didn't see this sooner. I love you. Marcus." I read it twice. Tom stood in the doorway, not saying anything. The cash was in stacks of hundreds. I didn't count it all, but there had to be $40,000, maybe $50,000 there. Marcus had been hiding money from his wife because his wife had been stealing from him. I didn't cry. I smiled and said, "Now I know why he told me to check the property one last time." Marcus had called me the day before he died. Wednesday afternoon, 2:15 p.m. I'd been at Target shopping for groceries. He'd said, "Mom, if anything ever happens to me, make sure you do a final walkthrough of the Oak Street property. Tom will help you. Don't let Sarah do it alone." I'd laughed. "Nothing's going to happen to you. You're 32. "I know, just promise me." "I promise." He died the next morning. Car accident on the highway, black ice, hit a guardrail at 6:43 a.m. on his way to a job site. State police said he died instantly. Sarah had called me at 8:20 a.m., hysterical, saying the hospital had just called her. I'd thought it was just terrible luck. A freak accident. November in Michigan, roads get bad, these things happen. Now I was standing in my dead son's rental property, looking at evidence that his wife had stolen nearly $200,000 from him over 3 years, and I was starting to wonder if it really was just an accident. I needed to think, I needed to plan, I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with before I made any moves. Tom helped me load everything into my car. The lockbox, the envelope, the cash, he didn't ask questions, just said, "Whatever you need, Mrs. Chen. Marcus was a good guy. This isn't right." I drove home, put everything in my bedroom closet, in the safe my husband had installed in 2003. Combination lock, fireproof, the kind you bolt to the floor. Then I sat down at my kitchen table with the documents and started reading. The pattern became clear after about an hour. Sarah had opened her first secret account in June 2022, 2 months after their third wedding anniversary. Started transferring small amounts $300, $500 from their joint checking account. Categorized them as groceries or household expenses in their budgeting app. Marcus, careful as he was, had trusted her with the day-to-day spending. He focused on the big picture: properties, investments, savings goals. By December 2022, she was taking $2,000 a month. By June 2023, $4,000. By the time Marcus started noticing something was wrong in March 2024, she'd accumulated $127,000 across 4 different accounts. The documents showed he'd been tracking her for 18 months before he died. Screenshots of her account logins, records of her spending. A whole second life she'd been living. Designer clothes, jewelry, a storage unit rented under her maiden name where she kept everything. Weekend trips, she claimed, were visiting her sister in Columbus. Her sister lived in Toledo, and Marcus had GPS data from her phone showing she'd actually been in Chicago, Miami, Las Vegas. There was a receipt for a $4,200 necklace from Tiffany, another for a $6,800 handbag from Louis Vuitton. Hotel rooms at the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, always paid in cash or from her secret accounts. Marcus had been building a case. He'd consulted with David Reese, a divorce attorney, had updated his will 3 weeks before he died, removing Sarah as beneficiary on everything except what Michigan law required. The life insurance went to me. The properties went to me. His 401k went to me. Sarah would get nothing except her legal share of the marital assets, which Marcus had been carefully documenting as minimal since most of his wealth had been acquired before marriage or through inheritance from his father. He'd been planning to file for divorce on November 18th. He died November 14th. I sat at that kitchen table until it got dark outside. Then I picked up my phone and called David Reese. He answered on the second ring. Reese and Martinez, David speaking. Mr. Reese, this is Jennifer Chen, Marcus Chen's mother. There was a pause. Mrs. Chen, I'm so sorry for your loss. Marcus was a good man. I need to see you, tomorrow if possible. I found something. Another pause. What did you find? Everything, the documents Marcus was collecting, the proof. All of it. Where? Hidden in the Oak Street property, in the walls. I heard him exhale. Jesus, okay, yes, tomorrow. Can you come to my office at 10 a.m.? I'll be there. Mrs. Chen, bring everything, and don't tell anyone you found it, especially not Sarah. I wasn't planning to. I didn't sleep that night either. Reese and Martinez law offices were on the 3rd floor of a building downtown. I got there at 9:53 a.m. with the lockbox and the envelope in a canvas tote bag from Whole Foods. David Reese was younger than I expected, maybe 40, dark hair going gray at the temples, good suit, the kind that costs $800 or more. He met me in the lobby himself, shook my hand, led me to a conference room with windows overlooking the street. Marcus came to see me 7 times, he said after we sat down. Starting in April. He knew something was wrong with the finances, but he didn't want to accuse Sarah without proof, so he started documenting. Every transaction, every discrepancy, every lie she told about where she'd been or what she'd bought. I spread the documents across the table. Bank statements, the ledger, the letter. Reese went through them methodically, making notes on a legal pad. This is solid, he said after 20 minutes. This is exactly what we needed. The will is already filed with probate court. Sarah doesn't know about the changes yet. We filed it the day after Marcus died, before she could try to contest anything. She thinks she's getting everything. The life insurance, the properties, all of it. What does she actually get? Under Michigan law, she gets half of the marital assets accumulated during the marriage. But most of Marcus's wealth was from before they married or from his father's estate, which is separate property. She's entitled to maybe $40,000, $50,000 at most. Everything else goes to you. The life insurance. You're the sole beneficiary, $250,000. Marcus changed it 11 months ago. I thought about Sarah at the funeral in her $340 dress with the tags still inside, planning what she'd do with money she thought she was getting. What about the theft? I asked. The money she stole. Reese leaned back in his chair. That's criminal. Embezzlement from a spouse is prosecuted in Michigan, but we need to be strategic about this. If we go to the police now, it becomes a criminal matter, and that could tie up the estate in court for months. What I suggest is this: we wait until the will reading. We let her think she's getting everything. Then we present the evidence, revoke any claims she might have, and give her a choice. She returns the money and walks away quietly, or we file criminal charges and she goes to jail. When's the will reading? Next Monday, November 25th. I scheduled it for 2 p.m. at my office. Sarah thinks it's just a formality. She has no idea what's coming. I went home and spent the next week preparing. I didn't call Sarah. I didn't visit. I let her think everything was normal, that I was just a grieving mother dealing with the loss of her only child. She called me twice. Once on Wednesday to ask if I wanted to have dinner, talk about funeral expenses, figure things out together. I said I wasn't ready yet, needed more time. She said she understood, that she missed Marcus too, that we'd get through this together. I said, of course, and hung up. The second time was Saturday morning. She wanted to know if I'd heard from the lawyer about the will. I know Marcus had everything set up well, she said. I'm just trying to understand what I need to do to transfer the properties and the insurance. There's so much paperwork. David Reese is handling everything, I told her. He said he'd call us both early next week. Do you know what Marcus left me? Did he ever talk to you about his will? No, I said. It was the truth. Marcus hadn't told me about the will, he just told me to check the property. Okay, well, I'm sure it'll all be fine. He loved me. He would have made sure I was taken care of. I thought about the $183,400 she'd stolen, the secret accounts, the designer clothes in a storage unit, the trips to Chicago and Miami while Marcus thought she was visiting her sister. I'm sure you're right, I said. Monday morning, I got to David Reese's office at 1:45 p.m. Sarah was already there, sitting in the waiting room. She stood up when she saw me, came over and hugged me. She smelled like Chanel perfume, probably $150 a bottle. Jennifer, she said, how are you holding up? I'm managing, you. It's hard. I keep expecting him to walk through the door. I still can't believe he's really gone. She was wearing black pants from Ann Taylor, a cream blouse, minimal jewelry, tasteful, grieving widow. Her eyes were dry. David Reese came out at exactly 2 p.m. Ladies, if you'll follow me. We went into the same conference room I'd been in the week before. There was a third person there, a woman in her 50s, professional attire, briefcase on the table. Reese introduced her as Margaret Hollies, the executor of Marcus's estate. Sarah sat down across from me. Reese and Hollies took the 2 seats at the head of the table. Thank you both for coming, Reese said. This shouldn't take long. We're here to review and execute Marcus Chen's last will and testament, filed with the probate court on November 15, 2024. Ms. Hollies will be overseeing the distribution of assets. Sarah nodded. She had a notepad in front of her, a pen from the hotel where we'd held the funeral reception. She was ready to take notes on her inheritance. Reese opened a folder. Marcus's estate consists of the following: 3 rental properties with a combined assessed value of $890,000, a 401k account with a balance of $43,000, a savings account with $28,000, a life insurance policy with a payout of $250,000, and various personal effects and household items. Total estate value, approximately $1,211,000. Sarah was writing this down. I saw her hand pause after the life insurance number. $250,000. That's what she was thinking about. Under the terms of Marcus's will, Reese continued, executed on October 23, 2024, and properly witnessed and notarized, the distribution is as follows. Sarah looked up. October 23, 3 weeks before Marcus died. I watched her process this. She hadn't known about any recent will changes. The 3 rental properties are to be transferred to Jennifer Chen, Marcus's mother, along with all associated accounts and property management agreements. The 401k and savings accounts are also designated to Jennifer Chen. The life insurance policy names Jennifer Chen as sole beneficiary. The color started to drain from Sarah's face. Wait, she said. What? Marcus updated his will in October, Reese said calmly. These were his final wishes. But I'm his wife. I'm supposed to get half of everything at least. That's the law. Under Michigan law, you're entitled to half of the marital assets accumulated during your marriage. However, most of Marcus's estate consists of separate property, assets he owned before the marriage and inheritance from his father. We've calculated your share of the marital assets at approximately $47,000. Sarah's hand was shaking, just a little. I could see the pen trembling against the notepad. This doesn't make sense. Marcus wouldn't do this. We were married for 5 years. He loved me. There must be a mistake. There's no mistake, Reese said. Marcus was very clear about his intentions. Then why would he cut me out? Margaret Hollies spoke for the first time. Mr. Chen documented his reasons. Would you like us to review them? Yes. I want to know why my husband apparently decided to leave me with nothing. I reached down and pulled the canvas tote bag onto the table, took out the lockbox, took out the manila envelope, spread the documents across the conference table, bank statements, account records, the ledger, the letter. Sarah looked at them. I watched her eyes move from one document to another. Recognition hit her like cold water. Marcus knew, I said quietly. He knew about the secret accounts, the money you were stealing, all of it. Her face went from pale to red to pale again in 10 seconds. I don't know what you're talking about. Chase bank account ending in 4738, I said, reading from the statement. Current balance $67,340. Wells Fargo account ending in 8821, balance $23,180. Bank of America, $41,920. Should I continue? Reese slid another document across the table. We have 18 months of transaction records. Money transferred from joint accounts into accounts under your name only, categorized as household expenses or groceries, but actually moved into secret savings. Total amount, $183,400. Sarah couldn't speak. We also have records of purchases made from these accounts, Hollies added. Designer clothing, jewelry, hotel stays in Chicago, Miami, and Las Vegas, all while you told Marcus you were visiting your sister in Toledo. Marcus was building a case to file for divorce, Reese said. He was scheduled to file on November 18th. He changed his will first to protect his assets from any claims you might make. Sarah's hands were shaking now, both of them. She put them in her lap under the table where we couldn't see. You can't prove any of this. I pulled out the letter, Marcus's handwriting, for Mom on the envelope. I slid it across the table. He wrote this 2 weeks before he died. He knew exactly what you were doing. He documented everything. She picked up the letter with trembling fingers. Read it. I watched her face change as she went through it. The denial, the fear, the realization that there was no way out of this. He hid this, she whispered. He hid all of this and never said anything to me. He was protecting his assets, Reese said, which was smart, considering you'd stolen nearly $200,000 from him. The room got very quiet. Margaret Hollies opened her briefcase, took out another document. Mrs. Chen, we're prepared to offer you a settlement. You return all funds in the accounts listed here, the full $183,400, and you accept the $47,000 distribution from the marital assets. In exchange, we won't file criminal charges for embezzlement. Criminal charges? Stealing from a spouse is prosecuted in Michigan. You'd be looking at 5 to 10 years if convicted. With this much documentation, conviction is virtually certain. Sarah looked at me, really looked at me for the first time since we'd sat down. You knew, she said. You've known this whole time, since the funeral. Since the day after, I said. Tom Brennan found Marcus's evidence hidden in the Oak Street property. Called me. I've been waiting for this meeting. You could have told me. You could have warned me. Why would I do that? So you could hide the money, destroy the evidence, run. She didn't have an answer for that. Reese pushed a document across the table. This is the settlement agreement. You have 48 hours to sign and return the funds. After that, we file with the prosecutor's office. And if I sign, you get your $47,000, you walk away, and this stays between us. No criminal record, no jail time. I don't have $183,000 liquid. It's in accounts, investments, I bought things. Then you sell things, Holly said. Liquidate the investments, empty the accounts, you have 48 hours. Sarah looked down at the settlement agreement. Her hands had stopped shaking, but her face was still white. What about the life insurance? Do I get any of that? No. The properties? No. The 401k? No, just the $47,000 from the marital assets. That's all you're legally entitled to, and frankly, it's more than you deserve given what you did. I watched her realize it was over. Everything she'd been planning for, counting on, had just evaporated. No $250,000 insurance payout, no rental properties generating passive income, no comfortable widow's life funded by the husband she'd been stealing from. She'd get $47,000, minus whatever she spent to replace the $183,400 she had to return. She'd end up with nothing. I need to think about this, she said. You have 48 hours, Reese repeated. After that, the offer expires and we proceed with criminal prosecution. The meeting ended at 2:47 p.m. Sarah left without saying goodbye to me. I watched her walk to her car, a 2022 Honda Accord Marcus had bought her, paid off, $28,000. She'd be selling that too, probably, to come up with the cash. David Reese walked me to the elevator. She'll sign, he said. She doesn't have a choice. The evidence is overwhelming. What happens after she signs? The funds get transferred back into the estate. We distribute the $47,000 to her, and she's out of the picture. You inherit everything else. The properties, the insurance, all of it. It'll take a few weeks to process, but it's straightforward from here. I went home. That night my phone rang at 11:38 p.m. Sarah. I'll sign, she said when I answered. I'll return the money, all of it. Good. But I want you to know, I loved him. I really did. You had a strange way of showing it. I made mistakes, I know that, but I never wanted him to die. You have to believe that. I don't have to believe anything, I said. You stole from him for 3 years. You lied to him. You were planning to take everything after he died. The only reason you're not in jail is because Marcus gave me the evidence to stop you. She was crying, I could hear it. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. I hung up. Sarah signed the settlement agreement the next morning. By Friday, all the funds had been transferred back. $183,400, minus about $8,000 she'd already spent on things she couldn't return. She sold the jewelry, the designer bags, everything in the storage unit. Liquidated her investment accounts. Emptied her secret bank accounts. It took her 11 days to get it all together, but she did it. She got her $47,000 on December 6th. I heard from Tom Brennan that she moved out of the house on Belmont Avenue a week later. Went back to her parents' place in Ann Arbor. I didn't ask for details. The life insurance payout came through on December 18th. $250,000 deposited into my account at Michigan First Credit Union. The rental properties transferred to my name on January 3rd. The 401k and savings accounts a week after that. Marcus's estate was settled by January 15th. Total value to me, $1,164,000. I sold the Belmont Avenue house in February for $340,000. Couldn't stand the thought of Sarah living there, couldn't stand the thought of someone else living there either. Took the money and paid off my mortgage, put the rest in investments. The 3 rental properties are still generating income. $5,550 a month combined, minus expenses. Tom Brennan still manages them. Good tenants, no problems. I kept the cash Marcus had hidden in the Oak Street property. $47,800 in hundreds, rubber-banded and untraceable. I put it in my safe at home, the same safe where I'd stored the evidence. Sometimes I take it out and count it, just to remember what my son did to protect what he'd built. Sarah dropped off the radar for a while. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she was working retail somewhere, living with her parents, keeping her head down. She didn't contest the will, didn't try to fight the settlement. Just took her $47,000 and disappeared. For 8 months, everything was quiet. The properties generated income. I managed Marcus's estate. I grieved my son properly without the distraction of legal battles and stolen money. I visited his grave every Sunday at Riverside Memorial, brought flowers, talked to him about the properties and the tenants and how I was making sure his work didn't go to waste. I thought it was over. Then last week, David Reese called. Jennifer, we have a problem. I was in my kitchen making coffee. 9:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. What kind of problem? Sarah filed a motion with probate court yesterday. She's claiming the settlement was signed under duress, that we coerced her with threats of criminal prosecution. She's asking the court to void the settlement and reopen the estate distribution. I set down my coffee mug. Can she do that? She can file the motion. Whether it succeeds is another question, but there's more. What? She's claiming Marcus was mentally incapacitated when he changed his will, that he was under undue influence from you, that the evidence we presented was fabricated. That's insane. We have bank records, transaction histories, his handwritten ledger. I know, but she's hired a lawyer, Mitchell Prescott. He's aggressive, expensive, and he's filed a 50-page motion claiming all of it. The hearing is scheduled for next Thursday. I hung up, went to my bedroom, opened the safe. Inside was Marcus's letter, the ledger, the bank statements, and underneath all of that, in a sealed envelope I'd never opened, was something else. Something Marcus had written on the outside in his precise handwriting. Final insurance, open only if Sarah challenges anything. I'd been waiting for this. So, what do you think? Did Sarah go too far, or was I justified in exposing her? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for what happens when I open Marcus's final envelope.